our scientific talent, and it's on the way out. You know, Nature, which is the leading journal for science in this country, did just a random poll of 1,600 respondents, and 75% of them said, we're looking to go overseas now. So we're draining one of the most valuable assets we've got in the country.
And what's the long-term impact of this brain drain? What will it be for the United States?
Well, it's going to be very, very serious when it comes to the healthcare area. If you look, for example, at the, but let me give you an example of a massive misallocation of resources. And I think this is a point I really want to make. If you look at the HHS, which is the Health and Human Services Department, run by Kennedy, $1.8 trillion budget. Within that, you've got Medicare, Medicaid, those kind of things. And there's some other agencies as well that are crucial to the health of this country. For example, the FDA, the Center for Disease Control, and the NIH, National Institutes of Health. Those agencies essentially are the Department of Defense for the interior of this country. They really are. They prevent epidemics or stop them once they come. They are the Department of Defense for the interior of the country, much as the Pentagon is the Department of Defense to protect enemies from raiding our country. Well, we haven't had an invasion since Pearl Harbor, and they're getting $850 billion for the Pentagon. And they want to add $100 billion, Trump does, to that. Meanwhile, let's go over and look on the interior side of defense. And what's happened here is you had 103 million people that were infected 5 years ago with COVID, and 1.2 million of those people died. But guess what? There's a miracle that happened, and that's this. The NIH, and their budget's being cut 40% by Trump, by the way. The NIH brought a vaccine within 1 year. That had never happened before. The fastest vaccine had ever been brought to this country previously was in the 1960s for mumps, and it took 4 years. So you want to cut the agency that saved literally millions of lives by bringing this vaccine within a record time of 1 year. You want to cut them by 40%. And you're thinking about maybe adding another $100 billion to an $850 billion budget where we haven't had one enemy attack to this country since Pearl Harbor. I think that, you know, this is like going down the rabbit hole and having lunch with the Mad Hatter. That's how insane this has become.
Let me ask you, Robert, the Trump administration charged the highly skilled Harvard scientist, Ksenia Petrova, with criminal felony smuggling charges for failing to declare frog samples when she returned to the U.S. in February, usually seen as a minor infraction. She has been detained in an ICE jail in Louisiana and says she faces political persecution if deported to Russia over protests against the invasion of Ukraine. Her work could lead to major advances in early cancer detection. If you can talk about what message is being sent by Ksenia's detention, the message to scientists, the students that are being detained around the country, the message to international students coming here that they might not only be deported, but imprisoned.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty horrible message, isn't it? I mean, that's the only way to look at it. And it's really, I guess you just got to say we're at the point where this is kind of the epitome of fascism. You know, you look at Huxley's Brave New World, and I'll just read a quickie sentence. But truth's a menace. Science is a public danger. Science is a public danger. Science is a public danger because it seeks the truth. And here's an administration that can't handle seeking the truth. And the circumstance you just talked about is all about that, isn't it?
And your sense, your advice to scientists who are now facing the recruitment efforts of Europe and Canada and Australia and versus the cuts of the Trump administration?
Well, I don't think they have any choice. They've got to take these grants. Their current positions are being demolished. When you take a 40% haircut for the National Institutes of Health, which is the crown jewel of biomedical research in the United States. It's the crown jewel, the crown jewel. 99% of the drugs that are approved by the FDA come directly as a result of the National Institutes of Health. And we have fired thousands of scientists there already, demoted the key people. They're going to head out and go to Europe. You know, if we had a pandemic tomorrow, think of the issue we'd be in. And there's some of the fired employees who remain anonymous have said, if we have another pandemic, we're screwed.
And not to mention Russia, China, I think Australia talked about the Great America brain drain as the Great America brain gain for other countries.
And that's exactly what it is. It's a brain gain for China, for Spain, for France, for Germany, on and go. Oh, and Canada too. And by the way, also Australia. So they're all jumping on the bandwagon. And I guess we'll just have a dumbed down society. That's where we're headed. And I'm not so sure, but with certain segments of it aren't already right there already.
I want to thank you so much for being with us, Robert Hunsaker. We are going to link to your piece for Dissident Voice, America's Great Brain Drain, as well as your other articles around the issue of the climate catastrophe. That does it for our broadcast. Happy birthday to Taymarie Astudio. Democracy Now! Is currently accepting applications for a director of technology as well as a director of audience. You can learn more and apply at democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Is produced with Mike Burke, Renee Feltz, Dina Guzder, Messiah Rhodes, Nermeen Sheikh, Maria Taracena, Tammy Warren, Trina Nadura, Sam Alcoff, Taymarie Astudio, John Hamilton, Rabi Karen, Honey Masood, Anjali Kamat, Safwat Nazal. Our executive director is Julie Crosby. Special thanks to Becca Staley, John Randolph, Paul Powell, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, Hugh Grand, Dennis Moynihan, David Prude, Dennis McCormick, Matt Ely, Anna Ozbeck, Emily Anderson, Dante Torrietti, and Buffy St. Marie Hernandez. By the way, Buffy, happy birthday. If you want to sign up for our daily digest, our newsletter, go to democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Thanks so much for joining us.
Revisiting this area is kind of surreal. I was really down for it before we got here. Now I'm here and I'm like, damn, everything could have ended right here. My kids wouldn't have had no more father, you know, my family. Everything could have ended right here. I just came from my kid's house, putting gifts together, Christmas gifts and all of that under the tree. My ex, my kid's mother, she was like, you know, stay in the house. I said, I'm gonna go outside for a little while, see my friends, see my homeboys. I grew up in Brooklyn. I was born in East New York. I stayed in Flatbush for quite some time. From Flatbush, I went to Staten Island. From Staten Island, I went to Yonkers, Queens. You know, I did the boroughs. Got 6 kids, 1 grandson. Working for a company called Hastings. We deliver some of the most expensive beds in the world. Drake has 2 of them, $500,000 bed. You know, just working, taking care of the family, taking care of the kids, making sure everybody eat, making sure I eat.
Kings County Hospital sits in the center of Brooklyn. It's a level 1 trauma center, meaning we have on average at least 1,200 trauma admissions per year. A lot of the other trauma centers are predominantly blunt trauma, traffic injuries. Something like 30% of our trauma is penetrating, meaning gunshots and stabbings.
So as an emergency physician, and we work in a very busy county hospital, and we're a safety net hospital, so we see a lot of trauma coming from all over the borough. When the pandemic hit, there was a slight drop in the number of violent traumatic injuries that we were seeing because everybody was inside. But it was just kind of like it was like a ticking time bomb.
For a moment, everybody was off the streets, but very soon after, violence started to pick up. I remember there was a mass shooting and a stabbing within an hour while we had multiple patients intubated in the emergency department with almost nowhere to put them because our ICUs were full with patients with COVID respiratory failure.
As the pandemic started to advance and people started to come outside and the weather started getting warmer, we saw the rise in intentional violence.
Gun sales are up, there's more guns on the street. During parts of the pandemic, people were losing their jobs and there was a little more desperation as well.
Everybody being locked in, they not being able to do the things that they normally do. And then there's no resources, there's no basketball courts, community centers is gone. You had to have something to give them so they won't be out there going crazy.
It's good, bro.
All right. Drive safe, bro.
Thank you. How's everything?
How you feel?
I'm all right. Most of the pain is in the nighttime.
Okay, it could have been worse.
The weather was kind of decent. I was gonna drive. I said, you know what? Let me not drive. Let me take an Uber. I got out of an Uber across the street. I came over here to say what's up to my friends. I said what's up to one person. And in the midst of me saying what's up to the next person, you know, greeting the next person, the shots started firing. It was about 9 shots. Once I felt it, I looked down and I seen the blood, and then my body just collapsed. I believe the shots came from that direction up this way because I was facing this way kind of, and I got hit right here. I don't even know who the intended target was. From what I heard, the shots were fired from around the corner of the building. Like the guy just stuck his arm around the corner from the building and started shooting like that. It was 4 of us hit at one time. So I scooted backwards and I got underneath a car till the shots stopped. Then one of my homeboys tried to pull me from underneath the car. Somebody else suggested leave him alone because they didn't know where I was hit at the time. I seen so much blood, I thought an artery was hit, and I was scared that I was gonna bleed out. But yeah, I was scared. I'm man enough to sit here and say that.
CAVI was created to really provide a service and help people in the community understand and be able to process trauma. This is my 20th year as a physician, and growing up in Brooklyn and treating patients in New York City as well as in Chicago, we saw this common theme of violence. And taking it up another notch, this other thing, which is recurrent violence. And when you start looking at people coming in with medical problems and you see a pattern of recurrence, you start to ask yourself why? Why aren't we doing something more specifically to just eradicate its existence? And I don't know if I talked to Yasef about it, we're seeing a lot more older people coming in who were assaulted.
So I do the initial contact here at Kings County Hospital. We get a trauma code that comes through, a level 1. I go and meet the patient by the bedside. I usually, read off the body language, versus communicating, because every time I go in there and say, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? We could easily get oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, versus your body language is telling me that you're really not okay. So I just try to, give them the time to breathe, pause, introduce myself, let them know what I'm here to do.
My role at CAVI is I'm a violence intervention specialist. I started in January. What we do basically at CAVI, we deal with the patients that come in with gunshot wounds, stab wounds, and assault victims. And we advocate for them, we talk to them. They might not feel safe in their neighborhood anymore. They might need housing. They might need an emergency transfer. So we help them with that. We help them with transportation. We help them with wraparound services.
So how was your first day?
My first day, I think it went well. But he said he never seen a person a day in his life, and that happened on his block. So he don't really even know too much about the person. So I don't feel it'll be a retaliation or nothing like that.
I go in there, I don't sugarcoat it. I just be me, even just by saying, hello, are you okay? You know, those words go a long way. And, you know, our patients look for that. You know, they look for just someone coming in there and speaking to them and letting them know that, you know, everything will be okay.
For some reason, the ambulance got there like immediately. I remember telling them to take my sneakers off so they wouldn't get too much blood on them. I had a good pair of jeans on. I knew they were gonna cut those. I believe once they started cutting the jeans, I just blacked out after that. By the time I made it to the hospital, it was actually Christmas. It was after 12. There were no surgeons available that day, I believe. So I had surgery on the 26th. Early in the morning, first thing in the morning, Kings County got me into surgery. But before the surgery, they drilled 2 holes in my knee, and they put a rod in there, and then they put a weight system on the end of the rod to pull the bones down to keep it in place, which was excruciating pain. There was one bullet that went in about right here and came out on my upper thigh. But in this passage, it destroyed everything there. But when they explained to me the damage and I seen the x-ray, I was shocked. I was in awe, because to know that that's your bone was once like this and now is like that, it's something that is unfathomable. Like, you can't even describe it, really.
Yeah, I can definitely reach out to them and give them a call.
Okay.
So funny, because when I actually went to go visit Derek was kind of skeptical on, you know, speaking, because, you know, we coming in, we're like, who is these people?
My sister Taisha, my first memory of her, is she comes in with her suit, her uniform. I don't know if it was the morphine or what. I thought she was the cops. And I was just like, listen, I spoke to y'all already.
I went back to visit Derek again the next day, and, you know, I tried to be consistent during the time that he was here, so he know that I'm for real, you know, and it ain't a game. And then Derek started opening up. Then Derek started telling me his needs and his wants.
One thing I can say is the emotional support. They talk to you and check on you constantly, to the point that sometimes you're like, all right, I'll talk to you later. But they definitely check on you. They definitely make sure that you're mentally stable. You know, they ask you all the time about your physical therapy, if you need anything. Due to COVID, I couldn't have any guests. I couldn't have any visitors. I couldn't see my kids. I couldn't see anyone from my family. FaceTime was it. FaceTime was everything. But, you know, there's only so much you could do on FaceTime.
So Derek was here on Christmas Eve and actually spent New Year's here as well. So he was really upset with that as well during the time, because nobody wants to be in here. You know, it's Christmas time, the holidays, you want to be home with the kids. I had to make it my effort to, you know, make sure that Derek stood and lift his spirits, and his spirit was always uplifted, and he wouldn't turn into a Grinch. I treat this as if I'm treating my family. You know, even when I'm doing an intervention and an assessment with the patient, I'm not looking at them like, oh, they're just a patient that comes in. Like, they are my family as well. I feel like I have adopted another brother or sister or uncle or auntie. The first thing Derek said was he able to go to a rehabilitation center? We assisted Derek going to the rehabilitation center, and then he was communicating with us that he was gonna be homeless, he ain't gonna have nowhere to go, and if there's anything that we can do. We made that connection, got Derek in a hotel right now.
What they did was spectacular, actually. It was really fast. Once I was told that I could put weight back on my leg, they got me out of there within 72 hours to a really good spot. I really appreciate them for that.
So we collaborate with different organizations. We have organizations like Man Up Inc., GMAC, SOS Save Our Streets, Life Camps, and we just completely do the network and get our patients on board, you know.
We started off with our school-based program first, partially because we wanted to make sure that people didn't have to become patients. Trauma itself is a costly process, but it's also an avoidable process under many circumstances.
It's a lot of things, you know. It's a lot of mental stuff too that I've yet to address, but I feel it. I've had maybe like 2 nightmares so far, you know, flashbacks. I've always had my head on a swivel, but now it's like constantly 360. I'm looking around, looking over my shoulder.
When someone has a life-threatening injury due to violence, people are more likely to consider changes in their lifestyle to decrease their risks of violence. And so that's a moment where, you know, a little window opens up where we can reach out to them, figure out what services they need that can maybe lead to stability and also cool things down.
There was a patient we took care of yesterday. He was assaulted. He was hit in the head multiple times with a blunt object as a part of a robbery. And he said, I grew up in the streets. I'm not going to do anything, but I have a number of children, and I am worried that they may go out and try to seek justice and find the person who did this to me in our respective community and retaliate. But let's find out from them where he does feel safe, and then if we have to get more federal folks involved because of that safety transfer, then we can do so.
Yeah.
So training people in how to prevent retaliation is one element of violence prevention and violence intervention. We know you're scared. We know that a lot of things may be going on in your mind, and we know that you may have some other things come up in your mind while you're sitting here laying in this hospital bed. So how can we support you? You know, if you are concerned about retaliation, why?
It could be fear, it could be anger. It could be you tired of seeing this person around that did something to your family member.
It's not just that patient who you're intervening with and talking about retaliation. You're talking to their family members. You're talking to their support circle.
Well, when I was 17 years old, I went to jail for attempted murder of a police officer. And I did, off of that bed, I did 8 years off of that, and that wasn't where I wanted to be. I let them know where I come from and where I'm not trying to see them go. I'm not trying to see them go down the same path that I went through, so I'm educating them on things not to do.
I just kind of break the ice and just tell them like, hey, I can understand the things that you're going through. I was incarcerated 6.5 years for assaulting someone with a deadly weapon, so I can tell you I don't know how it is to sit up in the hospital bed, but I know the feeling of how I felt when I had to get the news of one of the victims that I assaulted had to be in the hospital bed, you know, dealing with those type of injuries that they sustained.
There's a young man that we work with in Kavi, one of our earliest students, and I remember he put a hit out on another student. This is a high school age kid who put a hit out on another kid, and we talk about it years later. He doesn't even remember why he put the hit out. He called off the hit after we talked with him.
When somebody's thinking of retaliation, there's only 2 things you're gonna see, death or jail.
Well, full recovery from bone tissue to the healing of the rod and the screw that's in me is a year. But I could be up and functional within like 6 months. I'll probably do some office work for a little while. But yeah, I work for a cool company, so I'm going back there. I love Brooklyn. If they could put me in Manhattan, I go to Manhattan. Just want to get away from Brooklyn for a little while. I don't want my kids growing up in this environment that we're going through currently. Hopefully it'll get better, but you know, the goal is to get them out of any type of danger.
Anyone that treats cancer wants to prevent cancer. I think anyone that treats gunshots and stabbing should want to prevent them. You know, the best thing it would be if I worked myself out of a job and found something else to treat. There's plenty of work to do.
I've never really been a gun person. You know, I went to a shooting range once in my life. I guess guns serve a purpose in the right hands. In the wrong hands, just doesn't make any sense.
took him down. The Second Amendment, interesting. The Second Amendment, what it means to me is it gives me the right to keep and bear arms, even though I do understand that the Second Amendment wasn't originally intended for people like me. It wasn't written for us. The essence of it was to protect those who was writing the laws. And they weren't particularly people of my complexion, let's just say. But as a result of being an American citizen, that we do have a right to exercise those rights and to pursue the rights that's supposed to be open to everyone.
I am not a gun enthusiast per se. I do believe that you should be able to protect yourself, but having stockades, it's a bit overkill for me. Give me one gun, one rifle, let me master it, and I'm pretty much for right now, and I'm fine. I've lived in East New York for approximately 12 years, and while living here, I felt, relatively safe up until COVID. When COVID hit, that's when everything changed. One day, I had 3 packages stolen in the same day from downstairs, and I was so upset. And then I don't know if subconsciously that played like a role. I had the most disturbing dream where somebody actually broke into my house while I was sleeping. And from then I was just like, no, I'm not gonna be a victim.
I don't actually have a reason as to why I got into, say, firearms per se. I know a lot of people have their tragic stories as it relates to maybe assault, violence, and things of that nature. I don't have that story. But what I can say is that I don't need that story. I don't want to ever have a story to tell. The reason why I got into this is so that I can properly and effectively and proficiently arm myself in the event of an encounter.
My interest actually was piqued as a child. I was raised by a New York City homicide detective who kept firearms in the home, and he and my mom were also hunters. So guns were already in the home. When I was about 5, 6 years old, though, prior to my mom actually meeting my stepdad, a teenage uncle of mine brought in a firearm that he had found in an abandoned building. The emotions that flared in the home by my grandparents actually piqued my interest in why guns were such a big deal.
I was talking to my sister about it, and she said, do you know Wayne Francis is starting a gun club. Would you be interested in it? And I was like, because at that point in time, I had already made up my mind and I had started the process to get my residential license. So when she said that, I said, this is perfect. I can now learn properly all the rules and regulations and guidelines and safety protocols that goes along with owning a firearm.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our organization. Diasporans Firearm Club is the name that you hear a lot, but we're actually a chapter of the National African American Gun Association, or NAGA. NAGA was founded in 2016 by Philip Smith and has since expanded to over 150 something chapters across the country, 40,000 plus members nationally. And we here in New York, we represent the downstate area. Diasporans for Defense is our parent organization, and Diasporans Firearm Club is the actual subsidiary of the parent organization. And basically, the three of us, Donovan, Chris, and myself, came together last summer approximately, because we were basically looking to see what we could do to help support and empower our community. We recognized a lot of the civil unrest that was going on post George Floyd that raised the consciousness of a lot of people about their safety, self-defense, etc. And while that was not a firearm-related murder, we do recognize that, you know, it certainly was something to awaken a lot of people to become more conscious about what they can do proactively in order to be able to take their own defense into their hands.
5 fundamentals of shooting. 1, aiming. You have to know where your target is and hopefully be able to hit that target. Breath control. If you're punching somebody and I hold my breath, I'm gonna pass out. Because everything is kept in, I'm gonna pass out. But if all the force in my body is allowing the air to escape. When you're lined up and you're shooting, it's, so as soon as you're breathing out, squeeze. Hold control. So a lot of times there'll be a mishap with your firearm where one of the casings doesn't extract all the way, it gets stuck or what have you. If you're not holding your firearm firmly, it can't recoil and cycle the way it's supposed to. Trigger control. Taking the time to pull the trigger. Again. Breath is still free. We don't have to pay for it yet. Use as much of it as you need and follow through. Okay? Follow through with your procedures. Take your time. There's no rush. Like I said, we're not giving out gold medals today. Take your time, get your rounds on your target.
You hear about the situations like Philando Castile, which, as tragic as the situation was, it was an anomaly. You know, just like people take planes every day and drive cars every day, there's a risk associated with those, but we don't stop flying and we don't stop driving. So when an off chance happens, when a law enforcement officer doesn't exercise judicious judgment in the case of a stop and ends up killing someone, that is definitely a tragedy, but it is more an exception than it is a norm.
But also, please understand that training is not just for the gun owner. Training is also for law enforcement as well. Because in the case of Philando Castile, you can see clearly his training didn't allow him to deal with that situation properly as he should have. If you speak to anybody that's versed in law enforcement, they'll know that his actions did not constitute what his training should have been. So just like we need to train and understand the laws and how to act and how to conduct ourselves, law enforcement needs to do the same thing as well.
I'm going to go over the architecture of the firearm. Today we're going to be shooting the .22 rifle and AR-15. This is a 9mm. I'm going to pass it around. Of course, it's not real, all right? But as you're passing it around, I want you to take note on the similarities in a pistol or a handgun that are, because for the most part, it's the same parts, right?
Having a firearm doesn't make you powerful. Having a firearm is a sense of responsibility. It's a great sense of responsibility. It is not for everyone. Just because you have a right to own doesn't mean that you should own.
Well, I'm not particularly familiar with that research, but I would imagine that there's a caveat that if one has the proper training as well as know-how, that would reduce the risk. Firearms aren't something that just anyone should play with or just have. You know, it requires a certain knowledge, a certain skill set, which is what we do. We take that time to teach our members about safety and proper, appropriate, legal, safe firearm handling.
The bullet doesn't care who it shoots. The bullet's job is to go downrange. That's it. It doesn't care what it hits. It's not prejudiced. Its job is to come out of a firearm and hit something.
Simon says, put your hand down. Always keep your firearm unloaded until you're ready to use it. As I mentioned, they're all unloaded. Safe, unloaded, right? You might want to take notes on these because this is very, very important.
So the goal is to catch them while they're early, to instill certain fundamentals, principles in them. Because when we are out there on the firing line, you got to be able to listen. You got to be able to hear. You got to be able to take charge. You got to be able to be safe. And therefore, before we even hit the firing line, we're teaching these principles. We're making sure that they're able to understand. They're able to verbalize what the expectations are.
I will never play with guns. I will never go snooping or allow my friends to go snooping for guns in the house. If I find a gun, even if it looks like a toy, I will not touch it.
I have two sons, and they've both been to the range with me. My main reason for wanting to take them to the range is because I wanted to take the mystery and the curiosity out of it. I took them to the range, taught them all the basics on gun safety, and allowed them to shoot. So now they've gone to the range and they know what it feels like to actually shoot and hit the target, and they're excited and they love doing it. Now they don't have the curiosity anymore. Ceasefire! 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 That means you put everything down and you back away. Everybody go. Hey, what's up with you? Thank you. Okay. Have you shot the PC now?
I have before, yes.
Okay, cool. You know how to load a magazine? We're going to use a speed loader just to make it easy.
Okay.
Okay. As you can see which way it goes, you see the bullets go this way.
I see people that look like me here. I'm able to come here. I feel comfortable. I feel welcomed. And at any time I need assistance, I can. I've gone to other firearm clubs outside of New York City, and they're predominantly white. And so I don't see many people that look like me that are there, you know, renting guns, shooting, things of that nature.
We want to, again, distinguish sort of like what goes on and the violence that's going on out in the communities that we know about from what we're doing as a lifestyle of legal, safe firearm owners who are doing this much like any other hobby that you would take on and want to get very skilled at and take the time to train in. That's how we pursue it.
Now it's closed. It's ready to go. All right. So let's get your stance. Same thing.
Can I hold this?
Give me soft. Yes, you can hold that. Yes.
Okay.
Soft knee. Get your finger off the trigger. Excellent. So you're ready to fire. Yep. Keep it right up there.
I have one.
Good. Okay. You got your cheek against the cheek well. Very good. Let's take it off the safety with your thumb.
You are responsible for every bullet that comes out of that gun. You are responsible for. So you have to be constantly vigilant. You have to be serious. It's not something that you take lightly, because you might be in that position one day that you actually have to pull the trigger, God forbid. And you have to know in the back of your mind that you could actually take someone's life.
Coming from that rich legacy of civil defense organizations like Deacons for Defense and the Black Panthers, who believed in the importance of Black Americans exercising their constitutional right, we see ourselves as basically torchbearers that have the opportunity to continue that legacy today.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wes Jackson. I'm the president of BRIC Arts Media. We just want to welcome you to BRIC House. Thanks for coming out tonight. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the territory of the Canarsie and Munsee Lenape people who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We thank them for their strength and resilience in protecting this land and aspire to uphold our responsibilities according to their example. For those who are not familiar with BRIC, I'm going to tell you real quickly before we get into our program, we are a multidisciplinary arts and cultural organization. We do music, we do art, we do education, we do media. Some of you may not only know us through BRIC Celebrate Brooklyn, or through Jazz Fest, or through BRIC Free Speech, or our Be Heard series. But one thing, hopefully, when you walk out of these doors, we want you to remember we do three major things. We build community, which is a part of our programming here tonight. We are happy to have our friends in here from CAVI. We educate. We are here to build knowledge and knowledge attainment. And we are about lowering barriers to entry. And this is all in the spirit that we welcome you here tonight. On your way out, if you see fit, we would love for you to become a member, gather some information about BRIC. We would love to have you welcome back in the building again as we begin prepare for our summer programming. But for our feature presentation tonight and our lovely friends from CAVI. Last year, our Be Heard doc series, The Damage Done, Gun Violence in Brooklyn, included a film that featured our friends here tonight, CAVI, Kings Against Violence Initiative. CAVI recently won a Spark Prize, one of the highest awards from Brooklyn Community Foundation, where I heard from my friend Ramik Williams, who you're going to hear in a second from. It was one of CAVI's co-executive directors. And I will say this is one of the first time I went to the Spark Breakfast, and I was just telling Ramik backstage as he was going over his remarks, and when you have to give these remarks, you tend to go over them. I said, you got nothing to worry about, because I was listening to this brother like, I'll give you money right now. Right, when I was sitting there at the breakfast. So I had heard about CAVI from here or there. We have some board members here who have supported CAVI over the years, and just listened to him at the breakfast. I said, this is a wonderful, wonderful organization. And then, you know, as times happen, I realized they were going to be here in the ballroom when Jonathan told me about it and said, can I come and give some remarks? I said, absolutely. You know, just a little bit about Ramik. He's an expert, advocate, and champion in K-16 education and workforce and youth development. Ramik has dedicated his career to eliminating racial disparities in economic, educational, and health systems for communities of color. He has grounded this work by leading organizations, programs, and initiatives designed to increase the activation of investment in oppressed communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ramik Williams.
I don't know who Ramik Williams is. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate your kind words, and thank you all for being here. Good evening. On behalf of CAVI and our board of directors, we thank you all for being here today. Thank you to our partner, BRIC Arts Media, for inviting CAVI to be part of this project. Divine, who is the feature, he's not here yet, he's in an Uber on his way here. Thank you for sharing his experience. Kings County Medical Center and the dedicated staff at CAVI, most notably Natasha and Yasef, who worked most closely with Divine. This event would not be happening without the leadership of those who came before Anthony and I, who is my co-executive director. So, thanking Dr. Robert Gore, the founder of CAVI, Jaquel Clemens, Bang-Hee Chi, and to the many individuals who support CAVI, thank you. I think now I'm throwing it to, I'm sorry, we have a short welcome from U.S. Senator Charles Schumer.
Hi everyone, it's Senator Chuck Schumer, and welcome to tonight's screening and discussion of The Damage Done, hosted by the Kings Against Violence Initiative and BRIC TV. First, I want to recognize CAVI's executive directors, Anthony Bouchereth and Ramik Williams, founder Rob Gore, and everyone on CAVI's team for their great and amazing work. The best part of my job is traveling New York and meeting all sorts of incredible people fighting to make our communities better. But few have touched me as deeply as groups like CAVI, who work day and night to heal our communities of the scars of violence. Many years ago, I was introduced to the concept of community violence intervention to reimagine and transform the way we think about public safety. Because by now it's clear, traditional policing alone won't solve the roots of this problem. It takes everyone working together, using every tool in the box. So groups like CAVI stepped in to build support networks that can address, de-escalate, and prevent violence. So far, it is working. Tonight, you'll hear one example. Derek Divine Morgan, a victim of gun violence and a former CAVI participant, bearing witness to all the good CVI can do. Stories like Derek's inspire us all, and they inspire me to keep fighting for groups like CAVI in Washington. That's why last year I was proud to deliver nearly $7 million in funding to empower CVI groups across New York. And when Congress passed the gun safety bill last year, the first gun safety bill passed since I authored the Brady Bill 30 years ago, we provided the largest ever investment in CVI, $250 million nationwide, and New York is going to get a good chunk of that. I won't stop fighting to deliver every penny of federal support for CAVI and other CVI groups to build a safer Brooklyn, a safer New York, a safer America. So thanks again, my best, and I hope I can see you soon.
So now we'll see the short film created by Divine and the folks here at BRIC TV.
Revisiting this area is kind of surreal. I was really down for it before we got here. Now I'm here and I'm like, damn, everything could have ended right here. My kids wouldn't have had no more father, you know, my family. Everything could have ended right here. I just came from my kid's house, putting gifts together, Christmas gifts and all of that under the tree. My ex, my kid's mother, she was like, you know, stay in the house. I said, I'm gonna go outside for a little while, see my friends, see my homeboys. I grew up in Brooklyn. I was born in East New York. I stayed in Flatbush for quite some time. From Flatbush, I went to Staten Island. From Staten Island, I went to Yonkers, Queens. You know, I did the boroughs. Got 6 kids, 1 grandson. Working for a company called Hastings. We deliver some of the most expensive beds in the world. Drake has 2 of them, $500,000 bed. You know, just working, taking care of the family, taking care of the kids, making sure everybody eat, making sure I eat.
Kings County Hospital sits in the center of Brooklyn. It's a level 1 trauma center, meaning we have on average at least 1,200 trauma admissions per year. A lot of the other trauma centers are predominantly blunt trauma, traffic injuries. Something like 30% of our trauma is penetrating, meaning gunshots and stabbings.
So as an emergency physician, and we work at a very busy county hospital, and we're a safety net hospital, so we see a lot of trauma coming from all over the borough. When the pandemic hit, there was a slight drop in the number of violent traumatic injuries that we were seeing because everybody was inside. But it was just kind of like it was like a ticking time bomb.
For a moment, everybody was off the streets, but very soon after, violence started to pick up. I remember there was a mass shooting and a stabbing within an hour while we had multiple patients intubated in the emergency department with almost nowhere to put them because our ICUs were full with patients with COVID respiratory failure.
As the pandemic started to advance and people started to come outside and the weather started getting warmer, we saw the rise in intentional violence.
Gun sales are up, there's more guns on the street. During parts of the pandemic, people were losing their jobs and there was a little more desperation as well.
Everybody being locked in, they not being able to do the things that they normally do. And then there's no resources, there's no basketball courts, community centers is gone. You gotta have something to give them so they won't be out there going crazy.
It's good, bro. All right. Drive safe, bro. Thank you. How's everything? Everything. I'm all right. Most of the pain is in the nighttime.
Okay, it could have been worse.
The weather was kind of decent. I was gonna drive. I said, you know what? Let me not drive. Let me take an Uber. I got out of an Uber across the street. I came over here to say what's up to my friends. I said what's up to one person. And in the midst of me saying what's up to the next person, you know, greeting the next person, the shots started firing. It was about 9 shots. Once I felt it, I looked down and I seen the blood, and then my body just collapsed. I believe the shots came from that direction up this way, because I was facing this way kind of, and I got hit right here. I don't even know who the intended target was. From what I heard, the shots were fired from around the corner of the building. Like the guy just stuck his arm around the corner from the building and started shooting like that. It was 4 of us hit at one time. So I scooted backwards and I got underneath a car till the shots stopped. Then one of my homeboys tried to pull me from underneath the car. Somebody else suggested leave him alone because they didn't know where I was hit at the time. I seen so much blood, I thought an artery was hit, and I was scared that I was gonna bleed out. But yeah, I was scared. I'm man enough to sit here and say that.
CAVI was created to really provide a service and help people in the community understand and be able to process trauma. This is my 20th year as a physician, and growing up in Brooklyn and treating patients in New York City as well as in Chicago, we saw this common theme of violence. And taking it up another notch, this other thing, which is recurrent violence. And when you start looking at people coming in with medical problems and you see a pattern of recurrence, you start to ask yourself why. Why aren't we doing something more specifically to just eradicate its existence? And I don't know if I talked to Yasef about it, we're seeing a lot more older people coming in who were assaulted.
So I do the initial contact here at Kings County Hospital. We get a trauma code that comes through, a level 1. I go and meet the patient by the bedside. I usually, read off the body language, versus communicating, because every time I go in there and say, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? We could easily get oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, versus your body language is telling me that you're really not okay. So I just try to, give them the time to breathe, pause, introduce myself, let them know what I'm here to do.
My role at CAVI is I'm a violence intervention specialist. I started in January. What we do basically at CAVI, we deal with the patients that come in with gunshot wounds, stab wounds, and assault victims. We advocate for them, we talk to them. They might not feel safe in their neighborhood anymore. They might need housing. They might need an emergency transfer. So we help them with that. We help them with transportation. We help them with wraparound services.
So how was your first day?
My first day, I think it went well. Well, he said he never seen a person a day in his life, and that happened on his block. So he don't really even know too much about the person. So I don't feel it'll be a retaliation or nothing like that.
I go in there, I don't sugarcoat it. I just be me, even just by saying, hello, are you okay? Those words go a long way. And, our patients look for that. They look for just someone coming in there and speaking to them and letting them know that, everything will be okay.
For some reason, the ambulance got there, immediately. I remember telling them to take my sneakers off so they wouldn't get too much blood on them. I had a good pair of jeans on. I knew they were gonna cut those. I believe once they started cutting the jeans, I just blacked out after that. By the time I made it to the hospital, it was actually Christmas. It was after 12. There were no surgeons available that day, I believe. So I had surgery on the 26th. Early in the morning, first thing in the morning, Kings County got me into surgery. But before the surgery, they drilled 2 holes in my knee, and they put a rod in there, and then they put a weight system on the end of the rod to pull the bones down to keep it in place, which was excruciating. excruciating pain. There was one bullet that went in about right here and came out on my upper thigh. But in this passage, it destroyed everything there. But when they explained to me the damage and I seen the x-ray, I was shocked. I was in awe, because to know that that's your bone was once like this and now is like that, it's something that is unfathomable. Like, you can't even describe it, really.
Yeah, I can definitely reach out to them and give them a call.
Okay.
So funny, because when I actually went to go visit Derek was kind of skeptical on, speaking, because, we coming in, we're like, who is these people?
My sister Taisha, my first memory of her, is she comes in with her suit, her uniform. I don't know if it was the morphine or what. I thought she was the cops. And I was just like, listen, I spoke to y'all already.
I went back to visit Derek again the next day, and I tried to be consistent during the time that he was here, so he knows that I'm for real, and it ain't a game. And then Derek started opening up. Then Derek started telling me his needs and his wants.
One thing I can say is the emotional support. They talk to you and check on you constantly, to the point that sometimes you're like, all right, I'll talk to you later. But they definitely check on you. They definitely make sure that you're mentally stable. They ask you all the time about your physical therapy, if you need anything. Due to COVID, I couldn't have any guests. I couldn't have any visitors. I couldn't see my kids. I couldn't see anyone from my family. FaceTime was it. FaceTime was everything. But, there's only so much you could do on FaceTime.
So Derek was here on Christmas Eve and actually spent New Year's here as well. So he was really upset with that as well during the time, because nobody wants to be in here. It's Christmas time, the holidays, you want to be home with the kids. I had to make it my effort to, make sure that Derek stood and lift his spirits, and his spirit was always uplifted, and he wouldn't turn into a Grinch. I treat this as if I'm treating my family. Even when I'm doing an intervention and an assessment with the patient, I'm not looking at them like, oh, they're just a patient that comes in. Like, they are my family as well. I feel like I have adopted another brother or sister or uncle or auntie. The first thing Derek said was he able to go to a rehabilitation center? We assisted Derek going to the rehabilitation center, and then he was communicating with us that he was going to be homeless, he ain't gonna have nowhere to go, and if there's anything that we can do. We made that connection, got Derek in a hotel right now.
What they did was spectacular, actually. It was really fast. Once I was told that I could put weight back on my leg, they got me out of there within 72 hours to a really good spot. I really appreciate them for that.
So we collaborate with different organizations. We have organizations like Man Up Inc., GMAT, SOS Save Our Streets, Life Camps, and we just completely do the network and get our patients on board,
We started off with our school-based program first, partially because we wanted to make sure that people didn't have to become patients. Trauma itself is a costly process, but it's also an avoidable process under many circumstances.
It's a lot of things, It's a lot of mental stuff, too, that I've yet to address, but I feel it. I've had maybe like 2 nightmares so far, flashbacks. I've always had my head on a swivel, but now it's like constantly 360. I'm looking around, looking over my shoulder.
When someone has a life-threatening injury due to violence, people are more likely to consider changes in their lifestyle to decrease their risks of violence. And so that's a moment where, a little window opens up where we can reach out to them, figure out what services they need that can maybe lead to stability and also cool things down.
There was a patient we took care of yesterday. He was assaulted. He was hit in the head multiple times with a blunt object as a part of a robbery. And he said, I grew up in the streets. I'm not going to do anything, but I have a number of children, and I am worried that they may go out and try to seek justice and find the person who did this to me in our respective community and retaliate. But let's find out from them where he does feel safe, and then if we have to get more federal folks involved because of that safety transfer, then we can do so.
Yeah.
So training people in how to prevent retaliation is one element of violence prevention and violence intervention. We know you're scared. We know that a lot of things may be going on in your mind, and we know that you may have some other things come up in your mind while you're sitting here laying in this hospital bed. So how can we support you? You know, if you are concerned about retaliation, why?
It could be fear, it could be anger, it could be you tired of seeing this person around that did something to your family member.
It's not just that patient who you're intervening with and talking about retaliation. You're talking to their family members. You're talking to their support circle.
Well, when I was 17 years old, I went to jail for attempted murder of a police officer. And I did, off of that bed, I did 8 years off of that, and that wasn't where I wanted to be. I let them know where I come from and where I'm not trying to see them go. I'm not trying to see them go down the same path that I went through, so I'm educating them on things not to do.
I just kind of break the ice and just tell them, like, hey, I can understand the things that you're going through. I was incarcerated 6.5 years for assaulting someone with a deadly weapon, so I can tell you I don't know how it is to sit up in the hospital bed, but I know the feeling of how I felt when I had to get the news of one of the victims that I assaulted had to be in the hospital bed, you know, dealing with those type of injuries that they sustained.
There's a young man that we work with in CAVI, one of our earliest students, and I remember he put a hit out on another student. This is a high school age kid who put a hit out on another kid, and we talk about it years later. He doesn't even remember why he put the hit out. He called off the hit after we talked with him.
When somebody's thinking of retaliation, there's only two things you're gonna see, death or jail.
Well, full recovery from bone tissue to the healing of the rod and the screw that's in me is a year. But I could be up and functional within like 6 months. I'll probably do some office work for a little while. Yeah, I work for a cool company, so I'm going back there. I love Brooklyn. If they could put me in Manhattan, I go to Manhattan. Just want to get away from Brooklyn for a little while. I don't want my kids growing up in this environment that we're going through currently. Hopefully it'll get better, but you know, the goal is to get them out of any type of danger.
Anyone that treats cancer wants to prevent cancer. I think anyone that treats gunshots and stabbing should want to prevent them. You know, the best thing it would be if I worked myself out of a job and found something else to treat. There's plenty of work to do.
I've never really been a gun person. You know, I went to a shooting range once in my life. I guess guns serve a purpose in the right hands. In the wrong hands, just doesn't make any sense.
Collaboration with other institutions, churches, mosques, businesses, individuals, programs, and organizations like Men Up Inc., Fund Peace, the Javi, the Mayor's Office, the Governor's Office, and others across the borough, city, state, and nation to help communities we serve. We want to build the cure violence ecosystem and the crisis management system into sustainability, because at only about 20 years old and 13 years old, respectively, both fields are ripe for development and formulation through evaluation and partnership. We want to partner with people of means who care about their fellow humans and want to support an organization that is effective, efficient, thoughtful, and at times, and in several ways, wistful for a better future. We want this for Brooklyn, we want this for New York, we want this for America. We recognize and appreciate our institutional peers and partners who do the work in youth development, workforce development, education, physical, and mental health ecosystems. Thank you to the Brooklyn Borough President who has pledged his support for CAVI and the work we do. Thank you to the Brooklyn delegation in the New York City Council, New York State Assembly, and New York State Senate. Thank you to U.S. Senator Charles Schumer and other members of the Brooklyn congressional delegation. For the record, CAVI has no position on limiting someone's right to bear arms or to protect their families or to hunt. However, we are pro-humanity. We are pro-safety. We follow the science and data that shows that there are more guns in America than there are living people, and that those guns beget violence. We don't get into philosophical debates about gun rights and the Constitution, and we don't believe in the false choice of liberty or guns. We don't side with that type of thinking. Gun violence in the United States of America is nothing new. In 1966, at the University of Texas at Austin, the Texas Tower sniper killed 16 people and wounded 31 others over 96 minutes using a bolt-action rifle and semi-automatic weapons. His weapons allowed him to achieve a casualty rate of about 1 in every 2 minutes. It is said this was the first mass shooting in America of note. Today's automatic weapons can maim and kill 1 person in every second. The most recent mass shooting occurred about 2 weeks ago on March 27th in Tennessee when 3 adults and 3 children were murdered with a gun. A month before that, on February 19th, 11 people were shot in Memphis. 2 people before that, 6 people were killed in Missouri. 3 days before that, 3 students were killed on the campus of Michigan State University. There were 5 other mass shootings in the United States before any of these incidents took place since January 1 of this year. Here in New York City, the impact is just as profound. In February, in a span of 15 hours, 11 people had been shot, 2 died. About a week ago, on March 27th, within 18 hours, 3 people were shot, 2 here in Brooklyn. In a separate tragic and violent incident in Brooklyn, a child, who recently turned 16, was killed by a 13-year-old with the assistance of 2 of his friends who were 13 and 14 years old. The demographic makeup of the victims varies greatly. Indeed, gun violence in America is not limited to a certain gender, culture, religion, or creed. What is equally true is that gun violence has a disproportionate impact on young people of color. According to the Association of Public Health, among U.S. residents aged 15 to 24, homicide is the 4th leading cause of death for non-Hispanic whites, the 2nd leading cause of death for Hispanics, and the leading cause of death for Black youth. It's not all homicides. Guns are the leading method of suicide in the U.S. 60% of firearm-related deaths in the U.S. are suicides. Attempts of suicide by firearm result in death 85% of the time, compared to just 3% for other methods such as drug overdose. This is significant because nearly 90% of the people who survive an attempted suicide do not attempt suicide a second time. These are the facts. It has been said that violence expressed externally is murder. Violence expressed internally is suicide. Kings Against Violence stands for CAVI stands for Kings Against Violence Initiative. CAVI exists because violence exists. Violence exists because there's anger, fear, mental, and emotional pain, all of which are especially prevalent in Black, brown, and poor communities. We work on a 3-legged foundation of advocacy, direct service, and research. It is because of the work that we identify with the fact that violence, and especially gun violence, in most cases, is the last action in a series of escalated events. First comes the pains of poverty and injustice. This pain is furthered by the lack of proper care, nurturing, and development, coupled with inequitable, systemic, and unfair systematic policies and practices that have left millions, regardless of culture or ethnicity, with a sense of despair, hopelessness, and unimaginable agony and disconnect. We recognize that gun violence begins when there is lack of empathy. We understand that it's hard to be empathetic when you are hungry, cold, tireless, and hopeless. So we advocate for policies that protect young people's adolescence and their humanity, their community, and their family. There are advocacy and legislative actions that can have an immediate positive impact on communities in need. On a city level, we support the Build Stronger Neighborhoods and Opportunities legislation. We support the Safeguard Education and Learning Opportunities legislation and the Improved Community Health and Safety legislation. We support Councilwoman Rita Joseph's Resolution 3534, which would extend the hours of use for student Metro cards in New York City and would prohibit the MTA from enacting rules that penalize a student for using a Metro card when school is not in session. We stand with Councilmember Jennifer Gutierrez's resolution to provide free childcare for all, and we stand with Councilmember Hudson's resolution to make sure parents know their rights when interacting with Children's Protective Service agencies. And with Councilmember Hanif's resolution to properly classify hate crimes in New York City public schools. And Councilmember Narcise's resolution to study the use and lack of mental health resources, including beds in jails and hospitals. On the state level, we stand proudly with our friends Youth Represent in their efforts to pass the Youth Justice and Opportunities Act. We support the Clean Slate Act, which automatically clears someone's conviction record. We support Senate Bill 1553, which addressed the lack of automatic adjudication of criminal records for youth 18 to 21. We support the Fair Access to Victims Compensation legislation, because Black and brown people who are 9 times more likely to be victims of crime should not only receive 20% of victims' compensation. We support Senator Brad Holman's S580 legislation to support hospital violence intervention programs with Medicaid funding. We also support Senate Bill 580, which relates to the provision of payment for violence prevention programs in schools and community settings. We support Senate Bill 5749A, which relates to granting certain individuals youthful offender status, adds a new category of individuals eligible for young adult offender status, provides for process and sentencing requirements related to such statuses so that young people aren't held to the same level of criminal accountability. Because if we're honest with ourselves, major white-collar crimes are treated more favorably than misdemeanors committed by young Black and brown people. We support Assemblyman Cunningham's A0338, which relates to providing a re-entry employment tax incentive credit. We support Senator Brisport's Bill 5900, which establishes a task force to identify evidence-based and evidence-informed solutions to reduce children's exposure to adverse childhood experiences. And we support Assemblymember Chandler Waterman's Bill A05791, which defines the term mass shooting for purposes of emergency response measures and access to emergency funding. We support Senate Bill 7198, which relates to school climate and codes of conduct on school property and disciplinary action following a violation of such codes of conduct, and makes conforming amendments so that young people who get in trouble in school aren't treated as criminals without due process. And for the sake of time, email me and I will send you a tracker of the other city, state, and federal policies we value and contribute to, because they provide equity and balance to an environment that exposes and exploits the poor, young people, and particularly young people of color, their culture, and their families. As an organization, we are data informed. We only support policies that numerically have been shown to be inequitable and detrimental to people of color and those from lower socioeconomic levels. These are legislative initiatives given life by the metrics, qualitative and quantitative facts from our friends at Citizens Committee for Children, the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, National Institute of Health, the American Academy for Family Physicians, the American Medical Association, the Department of Justice, the World Bank, and the Federal Reserve in New York, and the many other institutions in various sectors that identify and prioritize health and wellness over the gun lobby, the prison industrial complex, and any other exploitive businesses and industries. As a youth development organization operating cure violence programs, CAVI is especially attuned to the risk and protective factors of young people. Every day we encounter and engage young people who live in continuous environment of generational inequity, trauma, and poverty, all of which have a direct and indirect impact on their lives. As much as we believe in their potential, we hear their pain. We exist to prevent, eliminate interpersonal violence from the lives of young people through education, advocacy, leadership, community mobilization, racial equity, and social justice. That's our mission. We do this by providing direct services to communities and community members using a trauma-informed care approach supplemented by social work practices. We help them heal and activate new behaviors that minimize the chances of them getting similarly hurt again, or worse, dead. We collect data on our efforts to outcomes that show return on investment and the efficiency and effectiveness of our practices. And we advocate for legislative and policy changes to the things that negatively impact people, their families, and their communities. We meet people at their most vulnerable times, after incurring a violence-induced injury, such as a gunshot, stabbing, and or an assault. We meet them when they come to school after waking up hungry, undernourished, sleep-deprived, scared, and unknowing what their future can and will look like. We meet them walking in the streets, sometimes without a particular destination or purpose, but always with the yearning for something more, for a better life. We meet them by design, we meet them by chance, we meet them through referrals, we meet them through outreach. We meet them where they are at. This is a lot, and obviously I don't do it alone. All of my CAVI colleagues are dedicated, dutiful collection of individuals who do the work, as do other organizations. We do it out of passion and out of purpose. But it is not enough, because we cannot end gun violence. We are powerless against bullets, cartridges, magazines, rifles, handguns, Glocks, glizzies, bangers, and everything else related to gun culture in America, and particularly in New York City. We understand that it will take collaboration and a collective impact to change the aforementioned facts. Tonight's film and panel discussion are some of the tools that we can use to create dialogue that leads to shared values, to create and implement an action plan to end gun violence. You will hear a conversation from a group of people with both unique and shared experiences in America. They come from research, they come from mental health, they come from Brooklyn, mostly. They come from Harlem, they come from a place of wanting a better society. They came here today to share their insight, to inform us and empower us with information that can lead to action. The discussion will be moderated by Dr. Keith White, who was born and raised in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn, New York, as a member of an underserved and incredibly underprivileged community. Keith is committed to the universal struggle for human equality. This commitment does not exist in the courtroom, but extends to many of his charitable and civic engagements. While a trial attorney at heart, Keith has worked in various fields of discipline. Having successfully defended his final doctoral dissertation at the University of Southern California, Dr. White has researched, studied, and is continuing to explore ways to improve the lives of the most underserved communities in the world. Dr. White began his career as an educator at Boys and Girls High School and then as a prosecutor in the Kings County District Attorney's Office. Since leaving the DA's office, Keith started his private practice. Keith is currently the treasurer of CAVI's board of directors, also serves on the board of Girls Education Mentoring Services, and is also a founding member of the Brooklyn Combine, a grassroots nonprofit organization. While working on some of the city's most high-profile cases, Keith has never lost focus on his commitment to a client-centered approach. Whether he's forming a business, negotiating a contract, or litigating a criminal or civil matter, Keith is committed to delivering professional service and client satisfaction. With unrelenting ideals, hope, and hard work, Keith believes that we can achieve fairness, equity, sustainability, and love in our society. I introduce our moderator, Dr. Keith White. Keith will introduce the panelists. I thank him, and I thank them, and I thank all of you. Good evening.
Good evening. It's good to see you all here. Thanks for that great intro, Ramik. Let me just get right into the bios and get the folks up here so we can start this conversation. Aaliyah Guillory Nickens is a campaign organizer and a Harlem native. Has become a prominent advocate for criminal justice reform. She began her advocacy work as a youth member on the leadership board for Soul Sisters, Here, she organized conferences about issues directly impacting Black and brown girls, such as school pushouts and the school-to-prison pipeline. Please welcome Aaliyah Nickens. Dr. Talib Hudson is the founder of the New Hood, a think tank dedicated to empowering Black and brown communities through policy ideas, research, and solutions. As a community-based scholar and advocate, Dr. Talib is driven to promote public policy for the advancement of metropolitan Black communities. His grassroots community work began with Street Corner Resources, a community-based organization in Harlem. He has subsequently worked in various local government, advocacy, and research roles. Dr. Hudson earned a master's degree in public policy analysis in 2013 and a doctorate in public and urban policy in 2022, both from the New School. Please welcome Dr. Talib Hudson. Kenton Kirby. Kenton Kirby of CVK Consulting, LLC, completed a master's degree in social work from New York University. With up to 20 years of experience in the field, Mr. Kirby has worked in several positions in child welfare, as well as forensic social worker through the New York State court system. In his current role as the Director of Practice at the Center of Justice Innovation, Kenton is responsible for spearheading direct practice values and vision for one of the city's largest agencies. Please welcome Kenton Kirby. A.T. Mitchell, my man A.T. A.T. Mitchell is the New York City gun violence czar and founding director of Man Up, Inc. You're going to sit over there. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Andre T. Mitchell is the first ever New York City gun violence prevention czar and co-chair of the New York City Mayor's Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. Mitchell, a well-known and respected community activist and leader, started the MUI voluntarily in 2004. MUI is the Man Up, Inc. In 2004, in response to the killing of an 8-year-old Deshaun Hill. Please welcome A.T. Mitchell. Now, I'm not going to read a bio for our final panelists, just because so much of what we're defined, or how we're defined in a capitalist society, is defined by our labor. And so I don't want to talk about his labor. I want to talk about who he is, right? One, he's the star of this film we just watched. But two, he's a father. He's a grandfather. I want you to all give a warm round of applause to our star, Divine. So I'm going to start with a grounding question, and anybody can answer on the panel. But as we see structures being built up around us, being built up and designed around us, but not designed for us, how is this structural violence affecting or impacting the gun violence that we're seeing in our communities? And that's for anyone.
Jump rope. Okay, no problem. I think I said it earlier in the green room. A line that really resonates with me: all violence is state sanctioned, and so even just seeing the structures being built around our various communities, it's giving this message of progress is happening, and you're being left behind, and it's very intentional. I see that, and imagine getting that messaging. And how do you process that? How do you take that in? You're a visitor. This was home, but now you're a visitor. And so what do I do in that? I get upset. I get whatever, all type of things happening inside my body. So for me, it's this messaging of you are not worthy of being here.
So I wanna jump right to you, Divine. Sometimes, many times, oftentimes, people that look like us, when we are the victims of violence, there is a negative connotation that comes along with being the victim of a crime in our community. And so there's a physical trauma from the actual violence, but then there's also a trauma associated with being associated with a crime. How do you unpack, or what processes or tools do you use to unpack the trauma associated with being the victim of a crime?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to apologize for the way I look in that film. I had no haircut.
Just lower your hand.
I was just wearing something crazy. But anyway, I'm from Brooklyn. You know how I go. I don't know. To answer that question is like, it's hard, it's difficult to explain.
Yeah.
To anybody that's never been through it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, I'm from the streets, but I'm not from the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like,
only a few people from Brooklyn really understand what that means.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, I'm outside, but I'm not really outside like that, you know?
Right.
You know, I'm outside for the
right.
I'm not outside for the bop, bop, bop. You know
right.
what I mean?
You old school outside.
Yeah, I'm old school. I'm 43 years old.
Right.
First and foremost, let y'all know that. I got 6 kids, and I got a grandson, and don't ask how it looked this good, but it just happens.
I'm 47.
No, you ain't. We're going to do some paperwork later. Anyway. I don't know. It's difficult because it's like, you know, when I was really in the streets and doing things of that nature and expected things like that to happen, it never happened.
Right.
So it took for me to be a daddy.
Right.
Like, this happened Christmas Eve.
Right.
You know, like, if y'all watch the whole joint, like, I literally came from wrapping gifts with my kid's mother and decided, oh, I'm going to go outside. And went outside, and this happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like I was outside and I had ops and so on and so forth. Nothing like that. Like, you know what I mean? I literally just went outside because it was Christmas Eve. It was a warm weather Christmas Eve. Like today. Well, today ain't Christmas Eve, but you know what I'm saying? And that was it. So what was the other part of your question? Because I talk too much.
So, but no, you know what? I want this to be an engaging dialogue with the rest of the panel as well with you. The second part of the question was really about what tools do you use to kind of deal with it? But I want to go to Dr. Hudson really quickly, because you have an organization that does this work, right? And so what we saw with Divine in the film is that this was happening in a hospital setting. But what trauma-informed tools do you use to provide care in these types of situations when people are hurt?
Well, I think we were talking about earlier in the green room that the work that I do, I'm not like Ramik and Dr. Gore and some of and AT and the folks. I'm not in the hospitals like that. You know what I mean? I'm outside. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not that outside like my brother was saying. So
like Divine said.
I wanna clarify and make sure about where my positionality is. But one of the things that we were talking about earlier is from a previous experience that I had working in a workforce development program in a public housing development that had high rates of violence, was looking at people who were coming in to that program. And really, where it's supposed to be about getting people jobs. That's the metric that we were measured by in terms of our programming. However, me and my colleagues knew that there were certain things going on in people's lives behind that. It wasn't about, is this person lazy, is this person have this skills? There are things that are going on in that person's life that if there had not been unpacked that were stumbling blocks in their progress, and that were some of the things that we had tried to do. But I'll stop there. I don't want to say too much because I do want to respect the folks that are really outside or inside that are really doing that trauma informed work.
So let me go to Brother AT because so I'm from Brownsville and Brother AT is from East New York, and I've seen him outside. He's outside. So I want to ask you, as our New York City gun czar, what are some of the things that the city is doing to partner with nonprofits, other agencies and organizations to deal with the trauma that's coming as a result of gun violence?
Well, the city is doing its part, right? And of course, it's never enough because we still have a long way to go. This issue, this epidemic, this gundemic that we are now calling it, it's been out of control for so far long, right? It's out of control, and there's a lot of work that has to still take place. We have yet to get in front of this issue. Right. And so what we're doing as a city is really galvanizing ourselves and really we're looking like recruiting people like the people in this room and the people in this city. It really is going to take every single one of us to really turn this plague around. It's the type of disease, and that's how we treat violence. It's a disease that it wreaks everything in its way, right? And nobody in this room is immune, right? And as we see cases and stories every single day, it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the race, it doesn't matter the sexual the orientation. Gun violence is something that is, if we don't, as a city, really collectively see how all of us can do something to really turn this thing around, it will eventually find its way. And some people, and I've been saying this for a very long time, do not wait till it comes and knocks at your door. Right. Because we don't know who's next. And so this is why we as a city are not just looking at it from a government perspective solely, but as a city-like wide responsibility as people. Right. And I believe in people. And that's really where the work that we do comes from. I believe in community. I believe that we can turn our neighborhoods from worse, to good, to best. And I think that's what we see happening.
Can I follow up on that point real quick?
Before, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, just because I follow this brother on Instagram, and AT is everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And he has, hashtag, this is what gun violence prevention looks like. And I'm always wondering, is that really gun violence prevention? He's here, he's there. But I think that even in some of the social science literature, you see how there's a paper by Sharkey and some of his colleagues that showed that the increase in number of nonprofit organizations actually can be correlated very specifically with a decrease in violent crime, right? We have seen how an increase in Medicaid services on the Brookings website leads to a decrease in violent crime and property crime. So when we look at a policy perspective, when we look at when de Blasio came into office and said we want to reduce traffic fatalities, he said Vision Zero. He got everybody involved in Vision Zero, right? It wasn't just DOT, right? And so I look at what my brother AT is doing from a city level and a policy perspective, and that kind of getting everybody involved. I just wanted to highlight and point out what this brother's doing.
No, I appreciate that. So now I want to go to probably the most important. Well, I do want to come to Aaliyah, in terms of having one of the most important perspectives, because we're all of a certain generation, but you represent the future. You represent the best of us. And so, from your perspective, what is the greatest threat to your generation, and how is your generation dealing with, how you need to protect your own future?
That's a good question. That's mad funny. I'm only 20 years old. Generation is mad funny. Like, I speak for the whole generation. I don't. Well, I think the biggest threat currently is probably self-hatred, the lack of education, the lack of inadequate resources. There's one more thing, but my mind is blanking. I say self-hatred because I feel like what fuels most of the gun violence is us hating each other and ourselves. And that stems from lack of education, not getting taught in schools how we're kings and queens. You know, when we go to school and we learn about our black history, it's just mostly about how we were slaves and how we was tied to chains, but we don't really learn about how much power we hold, excuse me. And that really, you know, it drives the hatred in ourselves, and that's why we go out and we, you know, commit these acts of violence towards each other, because we don't have the type of education that we need. And then on top of that, we don't have the type of resources that we need. So our schools lack funding. We don't have the basketball programs is not funded. The music programs is getting cut. We don't have social workers in our schools, which can lead to people, you know, getting pushed out of schools, the school to prison pipeline, if you guys are familiar with that. People get pushed out of schools, they go into the streets, and then boom. Another example of lack of resources is just not enough jobs for young people. It's hard to find a job. It shouldn't be, young people shouldn't have to wait till SYP opens to be able to make some money. Now they're going outside to make money illegal ways. And you know, that's one of the biggest threats to our generation. I feel like when it comes to my generation, everybody looks at us as the bad guys, but they don't really see all of these obstacles that's thrown at us all the time. Like, I don't really think there's such thing as like a bad kid. I feel like there's bad circumstances which leads to, you know, the violence and all the bad things that happen, but it's not, nobody wakes up like, I want to go out and bust this gun. You feel what I'm saying? They always, like, it's always a circumstance that leads to that. So that's what I think our biggest threats are to my generation.
Well, I think, you know, obviously one of our saviors is going to be... Right. So obviously one of our saviors is going to be black women, clearly. So, right, as it should be. So Divine, one of the things that I noticed from the film is that you showed a degree of vulnerability that black men typically are not allowed to show in society. And
says who?
Says certain sectors of society.
Fuck.
So talk about it. So talk about it.
Fuck them sectors. I come from, first of all, hold up, stop. Shout out her. I forgot your name.
Aaliyah.
Yes.
Aaliyah. Big Harlem. Yeah, Harlem in the building. It's a lot of
She
Brooklyn
said
heads.
everything that needed to be said, but anyway, thank you. What's the question?
The question was, you know, you showed a degree of vulnerability in the film, in saying that you were afraid at one point, and talking about how you felt.
Yeah, I mean, because that's true. I mean, if it wasn't true, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have been there. Like, I wouldn't have been speaking about it, you know.
Let me give you perspective. I'm from Brownsville. We walk around. We make sure we don't smile. We make sure we don't speak to strangers. We keep a hard exterior because that's how we protect ourselves.
No, that's you, bro.
But
I'm from where I'm from, wherever I'm at.
Right.
Like, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Flatbush. I'm from Brownsville. I'm from Staten Island. I'm from wherever I'm at, and
right.
You know, I keep that. I represent that. But to answer your question, the reason why I said what I said is because it's what I was supposed to say. That's my true feeling. That's me. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm not going to I don't know what the word is. I'm not going to undercoat it. I'm not going to say anything as different as to what I want to say. Like, that's me. I was fucking scared. You know what I'm saying?
Real.
And anybody that ever got shot, I don't know, unless you Arnold Schwarzenegger or some shit like that, I don't know. That shit hurt and you scared.
So we need to normalize being honest, normalize being vulnerable.
It's not about normalizing it. It's a fact. It's nothing to normalize. There's nothing to normalize. You don't need all these big words with transparency and this and that and all that shit.
fucking hurt and it burn and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the movie shit that you see where you get shot. No, everything is done. You shut down, calm down, try to relax, figure this shit out.
I think that to your point though, Doc, and let's keep it a buck, 100, 1,000. You know, like in the neighborhoods, it's unfortunate that it's glorified, right? Like if you survive being shot, you gain a certain level of popularity. You know, when you go back around the way, and what happens is a lot of cats don't keep it a buck. They go back and they make it seem like it was easy, you know, pickings, and they weren't crying. They took all that pain, and I've been shot too, right?
Yeah.
So I know exactly what it was like when I was being treated at the hospital, and it wasn't a pretty picture. But when I did go back around the block, you know, I didn't tell everybody at that time what I really was enduring. And so the messaging that has to be communicated to our young people is that what you're saying. You know, it's not a game.
Yeah.
And that's why the work that we do in the hospital at the hospital responder level is so important. Because oftentimes the same patients that we see, they come in, they're patients, but the work that we do in the streets, we see them out there as participants. And we're warning them, and we're trying to coach them, and we're trying to get them to understand, listen, you don't want to undergo this experience. And then unfortunately, some of them have to, you know, learn the hard way and find their way inside the hospital. Luckily, they survive.
Yeah.
And that's when you see these hospital responders, right? Because the people who unfortunately pass away, they don't get to see the hospital responder. Right? They're gone. We have to now deal with their family members. So the messaging, we have to be honest. We gotta change the narrative so that people will understand that the lifestyle that they are undergoing or living isn't really promising.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Sure.
When I got shot, they don't show it in the film. 3 other people got shot at the same time, right? So the dude that was shooting from there, and he's shooting at somebody all the way over there. And me and my peoples is just chilling right here. This is Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So 4 of us got shot. The intended target never got hit.
Right. Right.
My homie got shot in his feet. My other homie got shot in his back, came through his shoulder. My other homie got shot in his ass.
Wow.
I caught it the worst because I caught the thing. You know what I'm saying? People not understanding about these guns and how it really reflects on people.
Did y'all talk about it to each other, with each other?
We talked about it when people was out the hospital, but you know, this the hood.
Yeah.
Don't nobody really talk about nothing like that.
Can I add one more thing? I forgot, my mind blinked when I was answering the question, but the last threat, I think, to my generation is probably what's defined as the current cool culture. I feel like right now, like, that's what people feel makes you cool, like busting a gun, getting shot, and I feel like the lack of accountability is what's going to fix it, because I feel like right now if we keep on amping it and putting a battery in people's back and, you know, making it cool, they're going to keep thinking it's cool, and people are going to keep dying and keep, like, this cycle of violence going. So I think it's not even our jobs, well, not y'all jobs, I'm not an adult, well, I technically am an adult, but I'm not like a full adult like y'all. I think that, sorry, I didn't mean to offend nobody. I think it's our job as young people to, you know, be the ones to say, like, that's not cool. Like, you hear a person talking about it, you know, instead of, like, amping it, like, that's not cool. It was never cool to, you know, go outside and continue a cycle of violence or hurt anybody. And then as adults, I feel like it's important to be consistent and supportive, not speaking at them, down to them, but, you know, having a back and listening to what they got to say and, you know, helping them, giving them a helping hand. I feel like too many adults, you know, they just talk at young people. And me personally, I don't like being talked at. Like, I'll listen to you if you're talking to me, but at me, I'm not going to listen to you. So I know for a fact every person my age is going to think that way. So if we start working, we bridge the gap from the adults to the young people and, you know, get rid of that cool culture, then I feel like that's another threat and what we could use to get rid of that threat.
Wow, powerful, powerful, powerful. So I want to come back to you, Kenton, and it's based on something that that Dr. Hudson had talked about in terms of the nonprofits. But when I was a prosecutor, I used to see that black people would slide down the scale of social capital with criminal convictions, right? But they would gain credibility. And I would see white people slide up the scale of social capital by prosecuting black people. And so the system is kind of upside down in that way. As a director of a city agency, what programs or processes do you see that can be employed to flip the system and stop it from the systemic flaw that it has?
So I think we are doing this work on the foundation of white supremacy. And so understanding that when we get into this, there needs to be an undoing and a reckoning. And I always say, as a therapist by training, I'm always saying it's important for us to acknowledge the harms that we've caused in order to be able to do the work moving forward. But the problem is we have this notion of expertise and we have this notion of productivity in the work that we do, which is all rooted within this foundation of white supremacy. And so how do you undo something that is rooted in something that's intentionally to cause harm to folks? So right now we have these nonprofits that are fighting for dollars from this bucket of money here, this bucket of money here. So how do you do it when it creates this infighting? So the challenge I always say in my agency is, are we helping or are we serving? We're in service, actually. Because honestly, if you think about it, I'm getting money for gun violence prevention work. There needs to be gun violence for me to be able to have that money to do the work. So therefore, it's a service. It is an equal transaction. My expertise, what I bring to the table is no better than what you are bringing your lived experience into that same table. And I think the biggest challenge is we have to really start looking at it in that way. We are collaborators, not with each other as other service orgs, but also we are collaborating with the survivors that come into our doors.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Question. When y'all speak about gun violence and all these acts and things like that, most of the people that don't need to have guns already have them. Period.
So
what do you do about that?
So here's the tricky part, right? Because if you start legislating harder or stricter penalties, right, then we start to go back to kind of like the Reagan era of treating the drug problem. And so we have to be much more strategic and skillful in identifying how guns are coming into our community, why guns are coming into our community, and why there seems to be a need, right? Why do kids feel safe with a gun as opposed to, feeling a sense of danger? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so to my brother Devon's point, the guns are already here. I got newsflash, okay? The guns have already made their way into the crevices of our neighborhoods. That's evident. That's something that we can look on every day, every night, and see on television. So the guns are already present. How do we, get our youth and our people in our community to look and understand that the gun really doesn't kill people? People kill people, right? How do we get people to understand that that gun is not a solution to the problems that they are dealing with? It actually makes more problems. So because most of the people in our neighborhoods are not legal gun carriers, they don't have licenses or permits, these guns are illegal. And so if they decide to pick up that gun, because the access to guns in our neighborhoods is at a sky high, they can get a gun, rent a gun, and literally less time that they can get a job, right? And some cases get food on their table. They can get a gun. We have to change the mindsets, right, of our people in terms of how to change the way we think, we resolve our conflicts. The things that we feel are harmful to us, is it such a harm that we have to go and rush to the top of the list of the way we deal with it by going to get that gun and letting that gun go, right? Or are there other ways and measures and steps that we can take to reduce violence? That's the work that we do, right? We never took the position that we can end gun violence because we didn't start gun violence, right? This plague has been here in this country as we know it. It's been here for as long as we know. There's, like it's been said in the doc, there's more guns in this country than there are people. So what we got to learn how to do is go back to my sister's point and learn how do we get along to the point where we do, because we're going to have conflict. We got enough good reasons why we should have conflict. Poverty, right, and all these other things. Really,
you know what Aaliyah said? Aaliyah said that adults need to start having conversations and not speaking at kids, right? And what she's talking about is building community, right? So when we build community in healthy ways, then we can combat gun violence. And so what are some ways that we can build community? Obviously, it starts with a conversation. It starts with us listening to one another and talking to one another. But what are some other ways that we can build community effectively so that we can combat gun violence in a real way, not just through legislative means?
I think a big one that was mentioned in the film is consistency. I forgot her name, but she said when Divine was in the hospital, she was in there every day saying hello, saying what's up, asking how you was feeling. I think that's the first step, being consistent in your neighborhood. Like when you see a group of young people, they're being loud or whatever, you don't got to call the cops. Just speak to them, stop, have a conversation with them, and be consistent with it. Not it being like a one-time thing. You see them, you speak to them one time, but every time you see them, speak to them. If they need help with something, help them and make it like build that relationship first. I think that's where the foundation is, being consistent with them. And once they see that you're like being real and you're genuine and it's not like fake, then that's when they start opening up, and that's when the community could be built.
Just to build on that point, well, first of all, just got to say, I went to school for a very long time. I got 2 masters and a doctorate. And I've been to I don't know how many panels and conferences and things around gun violence. The level of social analysis that Aaliyah put down is the most succinct and insightful piece of social analysis I think I've ever heard. And I'm not like even like trying to like gas nothing like that. Like that was some of the most succinct and most insightful social analysis that I have, I think, heard in my entire life, and it played on many different levels. Like if you were here, you could get it. You could hear, you could get it. If you were here, you could get it. So if you're watching this and you want to rewind it and play it back, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna rewind that part and play that back. But to build on what you were just talking about in terms of building community, when I was with Street Corner Resources, we were doing something called Occupy the Corners, which at the time many organizations were doing around the city as well, around 2011, 2012 or so. And one of the corners that we were going out to was 129th Street and 7th Avenue, because there had been a shooting there. A young man named Akeem Green had gone overseas, served this country in war, and got shot on the basketball court in St. Nick Projects. And so we were on 129th Street and 7th Avenue. We were there Fridays and Saturdays, like 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 a.m. And the first Friday and Saturday we were out there, people kind of looked at us funny. The second night we were out there, people looked at us funny. But that third, fourth, fifth night, we were there in the rain, sleet, snow, when it was cold. That level of consistency, people actually started to come out. And they actually started talking about what their issues were. They started talking about what was going on with them, started talking about their problems. And we were literally building community right there on the corner. And what that also did was that put a level of visibility on the street level at night, right? So when people walking by now had a different level of safety because they knew that there were actively people out there. We had open mics and concerts, and young people came and they performed, and it was really great. And I think it's also an example of when you look at it, where this similar thing is done in Chicago. I think it's Mask Mothers Against Senseless Killing I think also hold spaces out on public spaces. And then if you look at in Baltimore, they used to call it Baltimore ceasefire. Now they're calling it. I think they just I think it's like Safe Streets. But there's another one. It's like the 360 where they do the weekends of like the no shootings on the weekends. Yeah, and that's another way. With that level of consistency, like my sister is saying, is a way that people with just togetherness can actually have an impact.
Okay, so I just want to pivot a little bit now because, we get up here in these safe spaces and we say a bunch of smart things, right? What are the action steps? What do we do? What feet are we putting on the ground to make the change? That's for everybody.
I think we rehashing a point, and that's an action item in my mind, is that people have to get involved. Yeah. I know that there's people who be like, and everybody just has to realize and learn what is your lane, right? We don't all have to do the same exact work. Yeah. Some of us are violence interrupters. Yeah. We out resource workers. We're hospital responders. We play that front line, right? That's not for everybody. Even during occupied corners, that wasn't for everybody either, right? Because if you get out there on the corner, and back to my sister's point, and you don't know how to speak with or to these kids, and you're gonna distance yourself. But again, I said it in the offset, like as a city, we have to just get involved, find out exactly how you can contribute to this issue, and you might not be the direct service person, you might be the indirect service person, but you got to do something. You just can't sit at your television and be a couch activist, right? And say, just criticizing what everybody else that's out there trying to do their darnest, and you're at home in the comfort of your own heart, and you're just criticizing. Yeah. So we just, I think, have to remember community is, to me, always the solution. Yeah. When we did occupy corners, and people see when we're out there doing the work, and people seeing us on our boots on the ground, more and more people are more willing to want to learn more about what we're doing. Yeah. So the presence of peace is increased. And then when the people that we're really trained to go after, because we really work to get to the people who are the trigger pullers, right? Because we know the guns are out here. Yeah. But if we can get to them before they pull the trigger and really work with them personally and develop that trust and get them to, like if you do have an issue before you think about doing something stupid, give us a call. Yeah. And maybe we can assist to mediate that conflict, right? And nobody has to get shot. It might have to go back to the day when it was fist fights. Yeah. Let's be honest. It was a time when you had fair ones. This generation don't get fair ones. Right. Right or wrong. So they go straight to the to the express line. So we really got to learn and train and teach our kids and our communities how to just get along with each other. And that sounds cliche-ish and it sounds really like stupid, but it is a real solution. Just knowing that we are one, we gotta live here. We're gonna see each other again. And that means that if I'm going to be in the same community with you, then I gotta learn how do we coexist? Yeah. Without that type of level of conflict. But community to me is the solution. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to really echo that point that everyone has a different lane. One thing, for example, that I learned in my experience is I'm not going to be the person jumping in front of the gun, right? Like, I'm from Harlem, right? But I'm not like necessarily like say from the streets like my brother Divine is, right? So when we were going around,
I'm not from the streets. I'm from Brooklyn, but I'm also from Staten Island.
Right. I feel you.
So like, I'm not like in the streets. Right. I come outside, now I go home.
Right, I can dig it. But so the reason I was bringing that up is because when we were going doing outreach, I realized that certain folk didn't resonate with me. They were the way they were resonating with other people. Right. And that's okay, right? There are certain rooms that I can go into, right? Because of my degree or because of some, other my social networks that I may resonate with people that other people may not resonate with. So we all have to find a different lane. Just to give a quick shout out, Greg Jackson, Amber Goodwin, Community Justice Action Fund. If people want to get involved on the legislative tip, you want to call it, because like you said, in Occupy, that was a problem. We had people out there who thought this was a game. They thought it was play. They're like, oh, we're doing gun violence. It's like, yo, like you about to get a shot out here. You gotta, you know what I mean? Because not everybody is built for that. Some people, you are good at home and you're making phone calls to your senator and to your congressperson saying we need more funding for gun violence prevention. That's a beautiful thing. That's wonderful. You get on Twitter and you at your senator or you at your congressperson. That is beautiful. Go check out Community Justice Action Fund. Some people are really healers and empaths, and you can do great work with Arisa Napa-Williams, None of the Child, and survivors organizations like that. You can do great work with Harlem Mothers Save, and you can go and you can help people who have experienced gun violence and bring some peace and comfort to them. You can go and work with young people and provide them opportunities. Some of our people of color, right? Some of our black and brown people who done got degrees, right? And they from the hood, or their cousins is in the streets and act like they don't know what's good. You can offer up internships at your job, so people that need certain opportunities, right? Like my sister was saying, SYAP don't have to be the only option. And some people are going to be in the street, right? So, but everyone has a space and an opportunity. It's just about finding whatever your lane is.
Right. And seeing the humanity of people, like seeing the person beyond what you see in front of. We live in a world where we make snap judgments of people as a way of staying safe, right? We kind of in our worlds based on how we're socialized. But to everyone's point about knowing your lane, I know I'm not going to be the one interrupting a conflict, but I'm a therapist, and I know I can make that relationship with that violence interrupter who's doing that and saying, hey, if that guy or that participant that you're working with is having night terrors and they're saying they can't sleep or they're drinking a little more, they're smoking a little more, maybe can you introduce them to me? And let's go out there together after the fact. So then we're all having impact at the same time. These things all need to happen at the same time, right? So that's where the collaboration comes into place. But also finding humanity in people. People are more than what we're seeing in front of them.
Well, when you speak about finding humanity in people, you got to know that person, and you got to be able to talk to that person, and for that person to open up for you to find, because you might just know the bravado on the outside. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get to know your homeboy, even your homeboy that you knew for 5, 10, 15, some odd years. You know what I'm saying? People don't really open up like that because we live in a society where it's like you feel if you open up to your homeboy that he might use it against you. Mm. He might use it to get your chick. He might use it to get you do it, whatever the situation is. You know what I mean? So it's like
I don't need you to open up. What I do need on my end is to see that you are beyond that bravado, beyond that. There's layers to people without actually having to know exactly what the nuances of is that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I accept AT as an individual beyond the man sitting here all sharp and everything, right? Beyond that.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying.
No, I know. There's nothing against what you. I'm sorry, guys.
So we are gonna have to wrap. We are gonna have to wrap soon. But I would like to highlight that point and then ask you really quickly, what about Taisha made you open up to her?
First of all, she's pretty.
All right, so we are done.
Wait, let me add one more thing. Hold on.
So, it's got to be 20 seconds.
It's going to be so quick because they mentioned opportunities. There's a group of young people back there in the youth committee. They all looking for internships. Okay, they very smart. Y'all got internships. Make sure y'all give it to them in the back. They all sit in the back. Y'all got to look so y'all can see them. They in the back.
Okay, all right.
There.
So what I want to do is I want to thank everyone on the panel. You guys are amazing. You did an incredible job. Aaliyah, thank you for all of the insight and wisdom that you share with us. I want to thank BRIC, Kavi, Ramik, the whole team for having this panel discussion, Jonathan for this incredible film, Divine. I want everybody to give Divine a round of applause for sharing his story and sharing his wisdom. Oh, okay. So without further ado, I just want to thank everyone again, and so give them a round of applause.
Oh, I gotta go to my cousin's wedding next week. I'm gonna be a groomsman.
Russo's by the bay?
Nah, Johnny's by Bay Street. Staten Island version. Instead of the couple coming up through the floor with the smoke like at Russo's, they walk to their dais over a miniature Verrazano Bridge.
Oh, classy.
I gotta rent a tux for this shit.
Good luck with all the jizz and puke.
Yeah, my family's weddings are wild.
No, I'm talking about the tux rental. There's only two types of people who rent tuxes. They're either for weddings or proms. One's a group of irresponsible teenagers on one of their first nights of true partying, all swollen with booze and fucklust. The other, they're a group of irresponsible adults confronting their loneliness, all swollen with booze and fucklust. Like I said, jizz and puke.
I fucked my prom date like 6 times.
Yes, high school Craig, all 6'2", 165 pounds of pure punk rock muscle, looking great in your tux, covered in fuck juice.
I like this. I do, it makes sense, right? Clothes have souls.
Yeah, of course you like this. You rented a tux for a 6'2" guy, slender tux. Of course you think it's got the mojo of 1,000 fuckable men. Me? I'm 5'7". I'm renting a 40 short with irregular arms and short legs. The last guy who wore mine looked like Kim Jong-un.
This place is bugging me out. I get it. For the 100th time, you moved into the neighborhood you used to buy your weed in.
No, this is the actual store. The wig heads were over here. There was a bunch of junk over there. The bag of Fritos that made this front to front, it was right up there. They made you buy a bag every time.
We've been to 5 different stores on Franklin. Each one was the spot you bought your weed in.
There was a buzzer that you pressed and they buzzed you in, and the door locked so you couldn't leave. I still remember them calling me 21 Jump Street.
Maybe this is the spot you thought was the weed spot.
What the fuck you want?
Let me get 2 dimes and a 20.
So, 2 20s?
Yeah. Excuse me, I meant 2 20s of weed.
We don't sell weed here. That's next door. Now get the fuck out.
Can I give them back to you? Yeah, for my money?
Are you fucking serious? This is not how these transactions go down. Look around you. Does it look like we have a return policy? Just do some coke, you fucking pussy.
I do coke.
Yeah, and you fuck bitches too.
I fuck bitches.
Give me that. Get the fuck out.
You still haven't tried Coke, you pussy? She wants white, the cheapest Sauvignon Blanc they got. These are cheap. Yeah. These 2 bottles and,
Is that it?
double chocolate Thai. You know, the one with the chocolate chips on the bag? You got the hydro? Let's get 2 for $5. You know what? You got a 50 of murders? I'm sorry. We're just taking a trip down memory lane. Believe it or not, before you moved to New York, this used to be a weed spot.
Yeah, what's your point?
No, this used to be a front. You know, the dumb waiter, the camera that didn't work, the bag of Fritos. The whole place was like The Wire. Marlo, Omar.
Look, he bought his weed here like once back in the 90s. He's being nostalgic.
5 times. Man, this neighborhood used to be wild.
And now you're back. It's $26.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought you might want to hear a little neighborhood history, you know? Some real seedy New York shit.
Sorry, I got other customers to attend to.
There ain't nobody here. We're the only ones buying shit. People just come in and leave.
It's not a really big selection.
Okay, you got your wine. It's $26. There's the door.
Another entitled non-New Yorker telling me how to live in New York.
I'm from Long Island.
I'm sure you're turned on. What a fucking asshole that lady was.
Is this gonna ruin the day? Because if so, I'm going home.
What? What did I do wrong? I was just trying to enlighten her about the New York that she inhabits.
Look, not everybody's got to bow down to the crap that comes out of the shit shell of a brain of yours.
You tolerate it.
Barely. That's what friends are for. Now be a pal and let it go.
I'm sorry. Look, I haven't slept right since the baby was born, and I haven't smoked weed in days.
What? How you standing upright?
Johnny V got pinched.
Fuck. You've been going to him since before college.
I know, I'm in a panic, but the little bit of weed that I have left, I've been giving it to my wife so she doesn't murder me in my sleep.
Call my guy.
You guy's a fucking weirdo.
No, he ain't.
I don't have the heart for his vetting process.
What are you talking about?
Craig, the last time we went there, we had to watch TV with him for like 2 hours. Actually, we watched wrestling for 2 hours and he watched us.
He's harmless.
I don't know, man. This whole thing's got me thinking it. I'm pushing 40. What happens if I lose a connection and can't get another one until a Cuomo legalizes it in New York?
Is there another Cuomo?
There's gotta be. I bought a jar for my weed in '93 and it's been filled ever since. I mean, I always have. Now it's like my ecosystem's disrupted.
I got you.
Oh, not in front of the kid.
This is fucking delicious. What is this?
Some Icelandic-style yogurt.
Everybody's got a yogurt now? When we grew up, it was just Dannon. Then the Greeks. Now you got a Finnish yogurt, Norwegian yogurt, Malaysian yogurt. How come Puerto Ricans ain't got yogurt?
They just call them mofongo.
That's Dominicans, man. Sometimes I don't get you.
What? That's the good stuff. It's got fermented chia seeds. It's got probiotics.
Is that the one for shitting?
Yeah. Can't believe you let your kids eat this shit. That's expensive shit.
Yeah, but your whole little Preserve Brooklyn cause, shouldn't he be eating public school butter crunch cookies and slugging a quart of water? Instead, you got him sitting here eating cut cucumbers and celery and warm Frisian glazing. And we got to get you up on New York food, Henry, okay? Next time, cart knishes with onions, Jamaican beef patties, hot dogs, Zeppelis.
Nah, that food's poison.
We grew up on that food.
Yeah, and look at us.
What do you do about the weed?
I got a number from Jose, my super.
Hey, yo, you still looking for me?
You Mikey? I was texting with Mikey.
You Jose's boy?
Yeah, you want to go do this at my house? I don't want to do this out in the open with my kid.
Go to your house? Nah, man. Just have your man take the kid around the block, and me and you go in here and talk business.
This used to be a front, right?
Where you from?
Bay Ridge.
New Yorker. You must have bugged out coming up here. You should look mad different, right?
Yeah, I bought my wife's wine in here earlier, and I was telling the girl that this used to be a friend. She bugged out on me.
Oh, that was you? That's fucking classic. I gotta tell my therapist about this shit.
Go walk around the block.
Yo, you really pissed her off, bro. She said 2 yuppies came in here and scared off all the clientele.
Yuppies?
Nuh-uh. He cost us like 3 sales. Him and his friend were pretending to piss on each other in the corner, and all the walk-ins walked out.
You was pissing in here?
I was pissing in a diaper.
You wear diapers?
No, I was telling a story that I was pissing in my son's diaper pail because I couldn't make it to the bathroom and I don't want to wake him up.
That's fucking smart. He's smart. I like that. We should sell to this guy, man. Look at his face. He'll be loyal.
I will. I will.
All right. We'll serve this block historian and move him on his merry way.
So, how much you want, bro?
What do you got? Dubs, eighths, quarters?
Got whatever you need, man.
All right, I'll take an ounce then.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah? Serve him. Hell. Serve the man. So that's 1,500, bro.
You guys don't have weed?
Dance Day. Dance Day. Dance Day. Dance Day.
Ah, this fucking place.
This fucking place.
Oh, you're making my kid curse.
The
fuck did I do? Well, that didn't count. Yeah, I agreed to go to a play date with your au pair du jour, and she's got to live here. What's wrong with Kiwanis? I prefer to remember it how it was.
Well, a place you didn't go because you weren't a longshoreman, prostitute, or junkie? You're just mad you got priced out.
You're damn fucking right.
Besides, I didn't say she lives here. It's her friend. She's throwing a party.
A party?
Look, her friend's having a little warehouse party. I wanted it to be a surprise.
For what?
DJ Chick Norris is playing.
Are you kidding me? No warning. Just boom, a surprise concert. Craig, I got a kid. He's here. Craig, this is why you don't have kids. You don't know how to take care of him.
He can come.
How? He's got fucking baby ears. Tender, damageable baby ears. They better not have those air traffic controller headphones.
No dipshit. It's a kid party. A mommy dance party, whatever you want to call it.
Nah, I'm turning around. That's it. We're on a mission, Craig. To make him from where we're from.
Would you live a little?
I'm living.
It's gonna be great. My girl could watch Henry. Me and you could relax and have a couple beers. You're gonna love my new wife.
Yeah, it's great to watch your friends in Borough die in the same place.
Whatever. I'm excited for you to meet her. I think she might be the one, man.
She doesn't stand a chance.
I'm serious. This one is special. She used to ride horses in junior high school.
Enough. I'm about to meet her. I don't want to spend the moments before learning how she loves to eat asshole. Well, I'm sorry, Henry.
I didn't say nothing.
Oh, this spot right over there. What's that guy doing?
Hey, yo, guy, what are you doing?
No, hey, spot's taken.
Yeah, by me.
Hey, come on, man, I'm saving it for my girlfriend.
There's no saving spots. Hey, Henry, is there saving spots?
No, there's no saving spots.
Hey, she's gonna be here in a minute. She's got our kid.
Really? This is where you've taken me.
Dude, sorry.
My God, dudes, we're like a Seinfeld episode here.
No, we're not. If we were, I would have beat the shit out of George and fucked the lane by now.
You flatbush flathead.
Who would have thunk it? I know, right? Trapped in a room full of beautiful nannies, young moms, and husbands whose wives are potentially steal.
We got the best bait of all.
No, that this is what we became.
that this is what Brooklyn has become.
What are you talking about? This is awesome. I wish we had shit like this when we grew up. We just went to the aunt's house so Mom could smoke cigarettes and play pinochle.
Yeah, but our aunts didn't move to the big city, become a parent, and dress like MC Search like this schmo.
What are you talking about? You're wearing neon limited edition sneakers and a polo bear shirt on Dad Day.
Yeah, but I earned it. We grew up here. Our whole family lives here.
So we get a hipster pass because we occasionally have a New York accent? You're more like him than you think.
Get the fuck out of here.
Hey.
How you doing? You look amazing.
Stop it.
Oh, this is James. He's thrilled to be here.
Hi. And you must be Henry. I like your shirt. Oh, you're such a little ladies' man, aren't you? What a muffin.
Thanks. He gets it from his mother.
Such a muffin. Hey, let's go dance.
Get him out of here. Have fun. Yeah, let's go outside.
So how'd you meet this one?
A friend's having an affair with my friend.
An affair? Oh, he's married and he's fucking a 22-year-old.
What do you expect them to do? They're everywhere. They're like bed bugs. They transplant here and just want to get in trouble.
And you're the problem. You keep banging him out and encourages more of them to come. You're a transplant banger.
Bang, bang, dude. Your wife's from Connecticut.
Yeah, and I get a pass on it. Because here I am raising the last of a dying breed. The last of the born and bred Brooklynites with an accent.
Is this what marriage did to you? Huh? Brooklyn's changed. It's full of 22-year-olds on Tinder, dying of sex with guys like us that are actually from here. And your way of dealing with your monogamy is through plotting and anger?
I've entered my Al Bundy stage.
I'd rather enter these transplants.
You're just infatuated with all the available ass looking to make the Craig mistake. You're the one they find right before they find someone to marry.
Yeah.
Hey, put this out. Let's go get a beer.
Can we get a couple beers? Two blue?
So, what's this one like?
She gets it. She knows what I need. A little dress up, clean feet.
Choking?
Dainty hands with a strong grip. You think I'm gonna put a baby in her? She's good with kids, nice family.
Yeah. Yeah, just jump right in. That would be great for the kid.
Yeah. I just don't think I can, though.
Oh, tell me more.
It's her father, man. He's bald.
Oh! You can't do that to your potential sons.
I know. I got a great head of hair. My father.
Great head of hair.
I mean, she's fucking perfect, but...
Hey, listen. Out of all the reasons that you should not have a child with a stranger, this one might stop me.
I'm a stranger. It's 3 weeks.
Hair? That's a problem, but it's second only to father's dick size.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I thought we talked about this. Look, in my mind, you owe it to yourself to find out what her father's dick size is. You owe it to your future sons to find out what you're potentially strapping them with. You gotta let them know that you tried to make the family keep on growing. Not shrinking, growing.
The future of your son's dick keeps you up at night?
No, I did my homework, no jeopardy.
You've seen Devin's dad's dick?
No.
You asked her?
Well, I couldn't get a look myself.
What am I supposed to do? Ask every girl I'm about to bang about their dad's dick?
No, only the ones that you plan on impregnating.
Oh my God, Henry is so cute. What a doll.
I know, that kid's amazing. Hung like a horse, that kid.
Stop. You are so bad.
I'm just saying, important things to consider when making a family.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about important things to consider when making a family. Heart disease, cancer, male pattern baldness.
What? My dad's bald.
Yeah, but is he well hung?
You better be kidding.
You know, this is amazing, and I don't want to be in a frivolous relationship anymore, you know? I want to take you seriously.
So...
Just give me an idea.
Stop, enough. I can't tell if you're being serious or not. I gotta take Alice home. Call me later, tomorrow. What's wrong?
Remember when you were a kid in the summer? And you just get home from the beach. Grandma's back from Florida. The kitchen's really hectic. You're running late for dinner. So you jump in the shower with your dad. Boom, you've seen your dad's dick.
Really? I've been in the city 6 months and somebody I barely know is asking me this?
It's been 3 weeks.
Okay, so who's to say it's my dad's dick that matters? How big's your dad's dick?
I haven't seen it since I'm 5 or 6, but you remember the one about the baby's arm in the apple?
Yeah,
His dick was holding that baby.
figures. But what if it's not the grandfathers that determine the size? Macho pig. What if it's my mother or... So, Craig, how big's your mother's pussy?
Dance Day. Dance Day. Dance Day. Dance Day.
I'm fucking beat.
Word. That wedding last night almost killed me, man. It's nice to be out here relaxing in some peace and quiet.
I needed this. I stayed out too late last night. And I was nicely buzzed and in the cut, and it was fun, but I just stayed out too late. I got right to that point of too drunk, too old, and too married for the place that I was in. I was with that kid Corey from work, the one we're meeting later.
Yeah, the kid you said is me 10 years ago?
No. He could be you in 10 years. There's still hope.
You should be so lucky.
Nah. I learned from your mistakes. I'm better prepared and better equipped for this. It's like I'm being sent back in time to change the future. It's like I'm John Connor.
John Connor led the resistance against the Terminator army. No, you're like the guy who fucked his mother.
You mean his father?
Oh, wait, so tell me, genius. How you gonna prevent me from 10 years ago from being me now?
It's just a joke I have with him. No big deal. Just about how, eventually he'll lose the ability to deeply care about a person for years at a time. And the trade-off is the ability to walk into a room and find something to fuck.
That doesn't sound so terrible.
Yeah, it figures. But I think I got him thinking straight.
How so?
He's 28.
So what?
So I told him what happens to a man right around 30.
The Great Widening.
We need a new name for that.
It'd be scary to most, but I welcomed it. They all became so beautiful at once.
I wonder what it is. You're so p***y in your 20s. Perfect tits, thigh gap, fat ass. And then all of a sudden, you love them all.
Is there a little awkward?
I love it.
A little ugly?
Fine with it.
Fucked up teeth?
Bring it. Big bush.
Bush is back.
No bush.
Big bush, no problem.
Wrinkles.
I fucked a grandmother last week. I followed the lines like map trails.
Lately, I can get off on one positive trait and some sense of humor. I mean, club foot, bad hair, pink eye. If she's got one good titty, it makes me laugh. If I wasn't married, I'd be in.
I mean, a little thick? Fuck it, a lot thick.
I prefer it.
Cellulite.
I got it.
Saggy tits.
My balls are almost pendulums.
Flat ass?
Not at all. But if they got a bad attitude.
No, then it's overdone. I mean, like one morning you wake up, as long as they're trying, they just all start to look so sexy.
That's what this kid doesn't get. Is then all that's left is to try to fuck them all.
Yep.
You're going to try to fuck them all.
Yep.
It's a curse. You're cursed.
Pray for me.
With all this ass floating around Brooklyn, it's like you're a kid in a candy store. Actually, it's like you're a kid stuck in a candy store after an earthquake for a really long time, and the power's out. So you gotta eat the candy for sustenance. I mean, he's forced to eat what he loves until it becomes what he hates.
But it all works out in the end, right?
Nah. But there's hope for others.
To be honest with you, I was pretty creeped out to meet you.
Jason, you do this to Corey? You blame him for everything?
Nah, we actually haven't been hanging out much lately. I just got engaged, so there hasn't really been any time. You know, I want to set him up with one of my fiance's friends so we can like go on vacation together.
But he keeps fucking him and leaving.
Keeps fucking him. So we're kind of running out of bridesmaids to pair him with.
Yeah, they'll hold his cock, but they won't hold his hand down the aisle.
Oh, hey, he can't help it. Look at the kid. So you're getting married. Must be tough watching Corey fuck all your girls' friends. I've been in long-term relationships before, and let me tell you, there ain't nothing more beneficial for their longevity than wanting to fuck all your girls' friends. Listen up, boys. I read all about this. Human beings are not actually the descendants of chimpanzees as previously believed. We're actually the descendants of the bonobo, a matriarchal, polygamous ape driven by orgy.
Stop. Your bonobo theory doesn't work. We're evolved from chimps, a disgusting, warring, patriarchal ape that's territorial, womanizing, and overtly cruel. Just look at the election this year.
Look, that's because we repress our true nature. Deep down, we are built to competitively fuck. Our bodies evolved that way. Look, I can prove it to you. Jason, imagine me fucking your fiance doggy style.
No thanks.
Holy shit, dude. This is my work friend.
Whom you're trying to convince not to be like me. This should only further prove your point, no?
Well, valid, but fucking his wife, doggy style?
It's for science. Don't be so close-minded. The doggy style is just because I'm a visual thinker. All right, so let's say me and Corey are engaged in a threesome.
Yeah, Dib's hitting that one first.
All right, so he's fucking her, and then he comes inside her, right? Here I come with my dick. And while I'm doing my thing to please this woman, I come inside her. But while we're enjoying this pleasure, I'm also displacing his sperm. You see, listen, the male penis is like a meat straw. And while we thrust in, our foreskin also pulls out the last lover's sperm. You see, she wants our cum. She's programmed to procreate, and she's maximizing her chances by having multiple lovers. And I'm obliging, but I'm also competing.
You fucking lost it. I'm sorry, guys. He gets like this sometimes. Let's get out of here.
No, I haven't. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, guys. Your wife wants a life full of orgasms. Besides, more sex leads to less conflict.
I do agree that we live in a matriarchal society. I mean, what's more matriarchal than what James and I have?
What do you mean?
I mean, we're forced to brunch. We're forced to express our feelings. We have to clean up after ourselves, listen, and eat salads.
No, I choose to live a pretty sweet life with my lady and my boys.
No, she conditions you to live an optimal life for her and gives you sex to pacify your primal urge. I mean, she's got your nuts in a sports sack. The same bag that she kept her weed in all throughout college. Weed that she doesn't let you smoke now.
Forget this. This isn't just about you. Think about your wife's needs also. When the female bonobo screams out during orgasm, she's screaming for more males to come and fuck her. She's screaming for more dick. Look, our women want more dicks. Corey gets it. He gives more dick. Jason, give her more dick.
Suddenly, I hate myself.
Craig, I lived with you for years. I've heard you fuck. You're like Marlon Brando having sex with Marlon Brando in a sex scene directed by Marlon Brando. And secondly, I am positive when she has that fake orgasm, it's so that she can go to sleep and get the trauma of your sex screams behind her.
Look, you can tell yourself whatever you want. You can't refute science. The fact that my dick and fuck motion combo sucks out other sperm proves that we evolved as polygamists, further proving that our girlfriends and wives want pounds of dick.
You're a sick fuck. You want to be like this, Corey?
No, I want to be like you and Jason.
Are you happy?
No.
Why not?
You have Corey to groom. But who am I to impart my wisdom to? Today, all this, it made me realize that I need a protege.
You like fruit, Henry? Why not eat all the fruit?
Henry, too much fruit makes you sick. Greggy has too much fruit.
But fruit's so sweet and delicious.
Henry, vegetables make you stronger. Bitter greens might not taste good at first, but you get used to them.
She won't let me do it.
She's 100% right.
Why you always gotta get her back? You're supposed to be my pal, my confidant, my golden girl.
Look, Sophia Petrillo, like myself, does not make decisions based on loyalty alone. She trusts her gut.
Yeah, and I trust mine. And it's gotten really big lately, so, you know, it must know something. So that's it. I'm cutting the cord, no more cable.
You can't cut cords. What did your therapist say? Look, TV raised you, man. Video music box, Yo MTV raps, cartoons. You gonna turn your back on your parents?
Brooklyn raised me.
Come on, you're an inside. You were plopped on a couch eating Twinkies. You wasn't out here on these streets.
Besides, the only reason I have a TV is because I thought I'd see you on it someday. So I might as well just throw it away.
I can't believe Henry graduated pre-K already. I mean, it feels like just yesterday you were freaking out about getting Devin pregnant and having to commit your life to a soul-sucking job.
I wish it was free K. I mean, it's more like college tuition. This kid's getting a Norwegian-level education at Martin Shkreli prices.
I thought you was rich.
He's rich. My wife's rich. I'm still heavily invested in the get-rich-quick schemes and the pipe dreams. Well, forget about it, though, because the people, they're lovely. The education is great. The one thing that chaps my ass is that Henry is the only true Brooklynite. I mean, he was born here. I was born here. My father was born here. His father was born here.
I get it. So he should get a bigger diploma, you're saying?
Yeah, you should. I went to City College. His grandmother went to City College. His great-grandmothers both had to drop out of public school to get jobs. Lineage counts.
How long does it take to become a real New Yorker? I always heard 10 years.
Fuck that. We were beat in, they bought in. It ain't the same.
So what you're saying is you're worried your son is becoming a yuppie puppy?
Kinda.
It's all right. Let's fix it.
First lesson today at lunch. Real New Yorkers know how to get over. We know how to get the big slice, the big scoop. We know how to talk to the people.
Yeah, me, Henry, I talk to everybody. I talk to the mailmen, the old ladies, the store owners.
The homeless.
Well, that's not fair.
Really? Because I remember you having such a connection with a homeless man who begged on your dorm room corner that you actually let
a man into my home.
I'm not celebrating you.
Henry, I gave a man a roof over his head. I'm a saint.
Saint Craigie!
Just because you let Charlie Noodles bathe in your dorm room and dry his dirty socks does not mean that you get the big scoop in your burrito. One does not do this casually. There are many technical details involved.
Enlighten us.
There are 3 steps to getting the big scoop. First, you can't build a building without a proper foundation.
Pork?
And you can't pour a foundation without happy labor. Not in my town. So you need to have the smile and the eyes locked ready.
How you doing, my brother? Let me get some pork, please.
Second, you gotta know your order. No mealy-mouthed, oh, what's on the menu? You gotta speak with conviction.
Nice. Rice, back beans, and black beans.
Third, no jumping the gun. You don't want to start with a miscommunication. You gotta be in charge.
Pico guac no sauce. What'd you say? Pico guac no sauce.
Why don't you just ask for a bigger scoop?
Yeah.
Ask for a bigger scoop.
They look into your soul, and they put that on the plate.
We want the big scoop.
Sure, for you. Hey, why not?
The big scoop we want.
How's that?
Henry, stop wasting Craigie's food.
No, it's all right. I couldn't finish this thing if I wanted to. And all these free chips. You don't want anything, right? You good with that taco? I don't want to be a dick or nothing, but that's a pretty small taco.
It's a burrito.
Let's go to the Brooklyn Museum after this. They're doing the Basquiat puppet show.
It's 90 degrees out, Pino. We're going to the park. Besides, Henry has a play date with his friend Wynomi.
Not this again.
Look, you're gonna meet her mother. You wanna be a filmmaker, you wanna be an actor? She's your path. And therefore, she's my path.
I don't want to meet anybody. I just want to go to the Basquiat show.
I can't do anything.